And it's being a little past 9. We're noticing the Personnel and Finance Committee meeting to start for Thursday, July 6th at 9:05. We'll start with public comments. We have anybody out on Zoom at all? No. Okay. Any public comments from within the room? Anybody wish to speak?
We have District 26 with his hand up. I asked him to unmute.
Just a second, we'll call him in. Anybody? Okay, we're going to Zoom. We're closing the comments of the room. Going to Zoom, we have District 26.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate the opportunity to speak. Conley Hansen, Supervisor in District 26. I'm calling to speak very briefly on the resolution before you for the analyst position. Many months ago, I did have a conversation with John Damel about maybe getting a grant writer for the county. This position is far beyond the scope that he and I originally discussed. If you look at the resolution, there is no commitment or promise to save or write, say 10 times, 50 times, 25 times the amount of salary. So there is no actual recourse written into the resolution for the creation of the position. I don't like the way that it is written in the ending either about saying that it will sunset December 31st of 26, except if it goes back through the budget process. That's kind of an end around to create weight that is not needed or wanted, I believe, by this county. I urge you to vote no on this resolution. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments, Conley. Anybody else out there that wishes to speak? Since we have no further comments from the Zoom, we're going to close public comments. And we'll move on to approval of minutes from June 1st. You all have a copy of the minutes and you've read them?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Second. Approved or motion by Bender. Second by John. Those voting?
Aye. Aye.
Aye. She can't vote. We have 301. I'm sorry. 302.
What?
Where's the second?
What? I don't understand.
Our vote was 3-4. We voted aye, and Betsy cannot vote, so she's excused. Where's our fifth vote?
So it's just 3-0.
3-0. Okay, 301.
What?
For Betsy was excused.
What about David? Isn't our vote just 3-0 and that's it?
That's what I vote.
Well, David's not here, so we're missing. Three zero. We'll leave it at that. Move on to item number 4, which Ms. Blackmore is going to give us a report on the finance department and general fund balances and the analysis. Of course, with it.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I did provide 3 handouts to the committee, one being the general fund balance use, and one being the investments portfolio, and capital project status report, which is just for review only, as it is not listed as a topic on today's agenda. So we can start with the general fund balance uses. So balances at the top are still unaudited. Our auditors will be final with our audit at the end of the month. So by August 1st, these numbers will be considered audited balances. But the general fund balance did start with 51 million for unassigned, $528,730.50. And the reason it was so high at the beginning of the year is because at the end of last year, we did that $22 million transfer from the ARPA fund. So that was sitting in there at the end of the year, but it is showing as a transfer out also at the bottom of the list of what's on your sheet. So at the beginning of the year, we go through the adopted budget, and we had intended on using $5,497,810 of unassigned fund balance to balance our budget to meet our levy target. So that's what that first number in that unassigned column is. And then we get into January when we start doing our carryovers. February they get approved, we post the entries back to January. The type 1 carryovers are mostly the land and water. They have their contracts, so they are not subject to approval. They are automatic carryover. So that's the type 1 carryovers. So it was $108,060.20. And then the type 2 carryovers underneath that, that's a typo, was all of the ones that you would have been presented and voted on. That was $260,310.73. And then our financial software, formerly known as Munis, does purchase order carryovers automatically. So any purchase orders that are open at the end of the year, those budget monies get automatically carried over through the system. And that was $916,157.56. And then we also had our shelter care building purchase that we took 1 million from unassigned general fund balance. And then we got into the capital projects. So the first one, the Nina DHS project, was done in January for 180,000. And then all of our capital improvement plan items are listed below. Instead of having 30 lines, some of them are summed up as all the highway road projects equals that 4,592,803. And then all the facilities ones were 737,624. And then we have some of the other park views, fire alarm, highway capital project for their building, the parks walk-off creek dam repairs, the sheriff ones. They had 2 different ones for equipment and council workstations. UW Oshkosh had 528,000 for theirs. And those are all listed too on your capital project status report for reference. So any of the ones that state January 2023 would be the ones that we would have February 2023, the ones that we approved then. Airport had just a small one. And then we had February, we had a facilities elevator repair ad of 230,000. And then we went into information technology, the fiber loop project. And then in March, public health used, or public health actually returned 100,000 because basically they received a grant for something that was already funded. So that is an addition to our fund balance instead of a subtraction. And then
So
sorry.
Can I interrupt?
Yeah.
So they didn't have to return the grant? They were allowed to keep it.
So they already budgeted the expense, so the budget transfer was just adding the revenue to their budget. Yeah. And then in April, the Parkview Health Center had water heaters. They needed additional funding for 30,500. And then human services elevator controls modifications of 48,000. And then our last one would be that transfer out of the 22 million back to the Spirit Fund. So as of right now, we're sitting at 13,237,366. And all of those capital improvement plan items will be into consideration for bonding in November. So we could bring that general fund balance back up based on how much we're going to borrow for those projects. And then the other columns are just the more of the designated items within the general fund. So you have your public health. So they are budgeting a deficit of 800,000 to take down their public health fund balance. Scholarship as well, they have 39,000. Their budget basically is taking down 8,300. the boat launch, they actually budgeted a surplus, so they're bringing it up. Land records, they budgeted a deficit as well, so they're intending on drawing down their fund balance. Property lister, they're also intending on drawing down their fund balance based on their budget for 2023. And jail improvement funds, same situation, 178,000 they started with, and they're drawing it down based on their budgeted deficit of 49,388. Any other questions on the general fund?
No, no questions.
Okay. And then Paul prepared the investment portfolio. So on page 1, he's showing all of the investments he purchased in June. Pretty busy month of investing for him. He added 8.2 million of new investing, and all of the information on each of the securities are listed here. We did only have one mature in June. And then we have a couple down at the bottom that have dropped down in their bond rating. So they're on radar to watch to see if we can sell them off based on those ratings not meeting our standards. And then we only have 1.75 million left to mature for the rest of the year. So most likely there will not be any new investments acquired for the rest of the year. And then on page 2, and on the flip side, we have our split of what our securities are. So we have 35.61% as municipal bonds, pretty much the same amount in money market. And then we have our U.S. agencies, our CDs, our corporate bond, and our LGIP. Right now, the market value is not in there because I've not finalized them yet. I haven't gotten all the reports from, well, LGIP is the one I'm waiting for. So it is showing our book value, our cost value, our face amount of shares. Hopefully within a few days, I'll be able to reconcile it for the market value, but we are about at 185.5 million in book value. And then Paul did also want to state that he did meet with Associated Trust to discuss possibly having them become our investment advisor.
Associated Trust.
Yes, Associated. So we have 2 portfolios through them. We have Associated Trust Dana, which Dana kind of does all the investing for us, and then we have our general, which is basically all of our brokers.
Good question. With the bonds that we're monitoring, what would the loss be if we sold them? I mean, I know that the shared revenue Milwaukee is going to get quite a bit extra money, so I don't think those bonds really would be in jeopardy. But what would we lose if we sold those 3 bonds?
I don't have that information, but we can.
Yeah, I asked Paul to bring it.
You asked Paul to bring it?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, when he's back tomorrow, I can reach out to him and send you a note.
You know, because with the shared revenue, Milwaukee will be getting a large portion of money, and I think they're going to use that to help pay off some of that. So I would be reluctant to sell those unless there's some significant change.
Okay. Yeah, I will definitely find that out for you.
Good. Any other questions, Don? No. We're good with everything.
What?
We are good with everything. Did you want to go over any of the capital projects at all? Anything, any hang-ups with overspending or anything?
She said that's not on the agenda.
Really?
It's not listed as on the agenda as capital project status. However, capital projects affect the fund balances, so it's arguable, especially if there's one where the spending it's being overspent and affects the fund balance. If you have questions about those, I think that might be appropriate.
I didn't have time to look at it.
If you have questions, let us know later. And we'll follow up.
Nothing marked in red. Yes,
There's
we're
a couple
good.
projects that are over budget,
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a couple highway projects that are over budget.
Thank you, Carol.
Welcome.
Okay, we're going on to item number 5. That would be Lindsay
Yeah.
from Parkview Health. This is an incentive program.
Correct. So we're looking to make an adjustment to the amendment that was passed last June and then again revised in November. We have had a couple pretty emergent situations where we've had to ask the county executive to go above and beyond the resolution. Therefore, we needed to edit the resolution so we could make sure that he no longer has to go beyond and above what's already in the resolution for those very emergent situations. We then created a policy that would go along with that as far as how we would implement that. That is approved by the Director of Human Resources and then also the county executive. So this new resolution gives us a little bit more flexibility, but we would also have to have a policy and procedure to go along with that. And then monthly, we plan on reporting to our committee, our Parkview committee.
And this resolution covers the policy and procedure.
The policy and procedure is attached because the county board doesn't vote on policy and procedures, but we did want to be transparent. Is that not attached in there?
That would be on the back of the resolution.
I have a copy here of it. If you want me to read it to you, I can.
This?
Yes. Yep.
We got it.
Yeah, that's the policy and procedure of how we would implement it. It's not something that the board votes on, but we wanted to be transparent as far as how we're going to implement that. But again, any changes to this policy or procedure also have to be approved by, again, the Director of Human Resources and also the county executive. If there are any changes made to this policy.
And it's approved now.
Correct,
Yeah.
yes.
Entertain a motion for the resolution.
I'll make a motion to authorize Parkview Health Center emergency staffing incentive proposal.
Mr. Bender, second.
Second.
Second, Mr. Nussbaum. And we'd like a vote.
Question.
Oh,
I
go
have a
ahead.
question.
Question, go ahead.
My biggest concern with this, you know, I worked for the county for years and we'd have people out on the plowing snow on Saturdays and Sundays. And all that happened is they would basically call in sick either the following week or the week after. So you force these people to take these hours and it just creates more overtime because they'll call in sick probably within the next week or two. There's no incentive no more to basically save your sick leave. You know, you used to be able to get paid out for 50% of it. Now you get paid out for nothing. They get 8 days a year. So they're going to use their sick time one way or the other because it is worth nothing when they retire. So I think we have to correct the problem and hire people instead of basically burning out the people we have. And I suggested basically incentive bonuses like Evergreen and other nursing homes have offered. I've never seen that come to the table to basically $5,000 for an RN, $2,500 for a CNA. You know, we keep burning the people out we have so that they get basically look for different jobs. I mean, if you can only get me to work so many hours, it doesn't matter if you want to pay me $100 an hour. If I have something scheduled on that Sunday afternoon with my family, it's more important to me than $800. You know, and that's all we're doing. We're taking the people we have and working them to death. And we need to basically get new people so that these people get time with their families and, can enjoy their life. And I don't see that, no matter how many times I suggest the bonus programs to try to do recruiting, or, like we have a training facility, we pay them for the training, but then they sign on with us for a year and a half or 2 years. That's how the training center was supposed to work with the last director. They were supposed to basically come, we would pay their health insurance, for the 6-week course, and then they would basically commit to us for a certain time, but we don't ever do that. We just take the people we have, and we're doing a disservice. You have a waiting list of 30-some people that we're not serving because we don't have the people and we have no plan on how to get them. I mean, I'll vote for this, but it's totally wrong. We're taking the people we have and working them to death.
I respond.
Go ahead.
Just so you know, it doesn't go to my committee, but I am working with HR as far as recruiting and speeding up the process to get people in faster, because we're losing people because of the amount of time it takes, because they have to go to occupational health. So we're working on a process right now to get staff in faster and also to save the county money. So we are working on that. The CNAs that go to the training center, they do sign an agreement to work for us for a certain amount of time and or a certain amount of hours as well. So those are definitely things that we are looking at and working on or have implemented.
I know I talked a lot, probably for the last 9 months, about the signing bonuses, and I've yet to see anything come to this county asking for us to authorize signing bonuses.
Okay.
And yet I looked on Evergreen, they have signing bonuses. So why would I come to work for you when I can get $5,000 to work for Evergreen? It pays about the same. They have a 401k, you have a county, but if you can't afford to put the money in a 401k, you don't have to. In a county system, the Wisconsin retirement, you have to.
Right.
So even though if you can't afford to put 6.7% or whatever it is today in there, you have to put it in there. And if you're a CNA making $18 an hour, you may not have that. Where at Evergreen, they don't have to put the 5% in the IRA. They can basically take their full $18 and pay for their daycare or whatever they have, So I just want to see you get some staff there so the people you have can enjoy their families while the kids are young, and
yeah,
it's important
I agree.
workers to have time at home.
I agree, absolutely.
I think we at Parkview discussed the possibilities of adding bonuses and that sort of thing, but it comes with a two-edged sword. If you add bonuses, you also have to be able to add them in a timely fashion so that you don't lose people as soon as they get the bonus. Those kind of things. So all of those discussions have been ongoing. It isn't as if we as Parkview, it isn't as if the Parkview committee hasn't studied the option of bonuses or the options that you've given here.
I listened to your meetings for the last 6 months. I've never heard a bonus mentioned.
We have in the past. It hasn't been in the past 6 months, but we have in the past. And if you care to explain or expand, you can. But otherwise, we're ready for a vote. Are we not? Or did you have questions?
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Did we not already do this exempt $68 per hour?
We do that already right now.
So I'm just wondering why did we have this in line 32?
Line 30 through 36 would be basically the new resolution. So some of this still remains the same.
We have to add this in the.
I think because of the line of 26 where it says now therefore be it resolved. So resolving the old one and having this take its place, line 30 through 36.
Right.
Aye.
I
3-0.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lindsay. Mike Elder. And Mike?
Aye.
Your resolution, approval of accepting an energy efficient and conservation block grant or EECBG in the amount of $78,580 and applying funds to the facilities budget. Go ahead and give us a little.
This is a funding opportunity from the Department of Energy. It was part of the Recovery Act that was passed a year or two ago, where they have just come through and they picked the 10 largest counties in the state, 10 largest cities, and they've said, this is how much money we're going to give you. You don't even have to apply. So our allocation was $78,580. It works kind of like a focus on energy type rebate. We would go and buy more energy efficient equipment or lighting, submit the invoices to them, and they will reimburse us for the cost. It's similar to the grant that we got in 2009, where we upgraded the HVAC at the Expo Center and added an absorption chiller and waste heat recovery work at the jail.
Okay. Get the agenda report. Everybody read the agenda report on it as well. Okay, motion.
I move to accept the EECBG grant.
Seconded by Steve Bender. Any questions?
I have a comment, or, yeah, it's a question. Are we gonna be able to use this to replace old boilers, old hot water heaters?
Yes, we've got 2 boiler projects, but what the requirements of the grant was, it was already budgeted.
Future ones.
We can't, it would be future ones. So these are the 2 oldest ones that we've got. We're doing the water heaters at Parkview. So those projects didn't qualify for being used there. So, you know, we're kind of stuck with that. And we also have a smaller window to be able to use it, so that getting through the design process would be a challenge for some of the other bigger physical plant things that we've got. Right now, we've got probably 50% of our lighting's upgraded to LEDs. We've got other equipment that we might be able to replace that would be more of a drop-in direct replacement rather than trying to redesign the system for some of them.
So what, I don't remember seeing a timeline.
Yeah, what is the timeline or the
They're gonna have the application requirements out later this year. They were talking about having them out in summer, but I haven't seen anything yet for them. We have to actually submit an application by the end of January of 2024, and then we have 2024 to do the work.
Or you could have another boiler go out or something.
Yeah, we could.
Replace an old one or something.
Yeah. So we've got some time to take a look at it. I'm hoping we have some kind of projects identified with our condition assessment that we could slide into this. But for this purpose right now, we didn't have to be specific on what we were going to do. It's just that we had to show an interest that we wanted to get money, and we'll use it for energy efficiency upgrades.
Does this go to your contingency for, work to be done?
No, we'd have to have projects actually planned for and do the projects, no contingency.
Okay, so this will just come in and ride until you use it.
Yeah. And if we don't use it within the window, then we forfeit it.
Do you have any plans for solar?
We do, but it's what's really interesting is Texas had some really bad weather this summer, And they had a huge solar plant out there that was going to be used to help them offset their heat wave right now. They had a hailstorm come through and just totally wiped out their solar system, their solar arrays. So, yeah, we're looking at a lot of different things.
Because if you were telling me that you were getting solar, I wouldn't know on this.
We're looking at a whole lot of different things. We do have solar hot water at Parkview, and it does help us. We would like to do some other things. I made a trip down to my son in Alabama, and I found there was a mall there, if you want to call it that, that had combination solar wind turbine parking lot lights. And that would be something that we could potentially have, that we're not tied into the utilities, and be able to light our parking lots and save some costs that way. You know, we've looked at multiple different things that we can do, but we haven't firmly decided on anything. Faith Technologies has come up with a proposal to put a solar array out at the jail, but in order to be beneficial for us, it's a rather large solar array, and it would be taking up a lot of the land out there that may be slated for future expansion or future use for county facilities.
Because there's a lot of drawbacks to solar.
Yeah.
It's a long payback, that's a long, you know, and then it's got a short life, and then you gotta dispose of it. It's just not a good thing.
We're trying to be judicious in making sure that we have an adequate payback. I know the solar system that we had put on Parkview was a 16-year payback. We opened up Parkview in 2008, I think it was. And it is still functioning just as well as it was. And what we have with that was it preheats the water that goes into the water heaters. So instead of heating city water at 50 degrees up to 120 degrees, we're heating water that's already at 90 degrees up to 120 degrees. So we're using it to augment and save utility costs where we can. I don't know that I would feel comfortable advising the county executive that we go off the grid for anything, because like I said, Texas, a hailstorm would wipe us out. And we need to have a tie into the grid to be able to get back there. And
that seems like a good plan, because I'm not against solar. I got a solar light on my flame, and I think it's great, but you have to be smart about it.
One thing that I did look at with like Faith was, we've got like 5 acres of roof out at the jail. And they said that that's really not a good place to put it, because there's so many different levels in the roof. It would be difficult to actually put a solar array on the roof. So, you know, we're exploring possibilities.
You know, and then there could be ruining your roof, and there's only you're gonna have to tear it down someday, and it's not good.
So we're being judicious in how we apply alternative energies.
Sounds like you got a good plan.
Want to vote?
Aye.
Aye. 3-0. Thank you.
I'm sliding the hot seat over. Okay, we can sit there.
Our next resolution that we're dealing with, item 7, is the purchase of 1021 Green Acres Lane in Neenah, Wisconsin for $240,000 plus the additional $100,000 for the renovation costs for the transfer from the unassigned general fund, or an advance from the general fund to be reimbursed by a subsequent bond issue. Let's hear about it.
Okay, and you had a presentation at the last county board meeting.
Yeah.
The situation is that the Winnebago County Housing Authority notified us that they plan to sell this property, which we have rented from them for, I believe, about 27 years. It was an arrangement back in the day where the housing authority built it, became the landlord. We've used it consistently for a boys group home. Boys meaning usually ages 14 through 17. It's an 8-bed facility. It's in Neenah. It's licensed as a group home for child welfare placements. It's a little longer placement than our shelter care. It's been, as I said, used routinely for that purpose. It's licensed correctly. It's owned correctly. It's been in the neighborhood for 27 years doing exactly the program that we would continue to run if we purchased it. And we have the opportunity to purchase it because the housing authority said that even though they need to sell it, they would prefer to give us first option to buy it, because it was an arrangement between us and the housing authority going back 27 years. So when she told me the price that she was looking for, I said, wow, that's a good deal. And I turned to my colleague and said, please go check it out, because I don't know if there's something structurally terrible about it that maybe makes this a bad deal. But short of that, we would like to purchase it and continue to use it for the same purpose that we've been using it for 27 years. And hopefully we'll use it for another 30 beyond today. So that's the long and the short of it. Is we got an opportunity to buy it. Mike checked it out with his crew. He estimated about $100,000, and he can tell you what he's thinking about with the $100,000. The purchase price is $240,000, and that includes an 8-bed, 4,300 and I think it's 48 square foot piece of property. 3-car garage, 8 bedrooms, newly remodeled kitchen. The windows have been replaced within the last 10 years. Siding looks pretty good. I believe the roof was replaced within the last 10 years. So I'm asking for your vote. It passed unanimously with the Human Services Committee 7-0. It passed unanimously with Facilities 5-0. Now we're to you, and then we're going to go to the county board in a couple of weeks if it passes.
Got a 6-0 on the Human Services.
Yep.
And a 5-0 on.
Oh, it was 6-0, yes, because there was another missing number. Sorry. I said 7 and then 6.
You're not going to mind a 3-0 on it. You're not going to mind a 3-0 on it from.
We would love to have a 3-0. We would love to have a 3-0.
Yeah. I see it's only 8 and 8-bed facility right now.
Yeah, it's 8-bed, and we don't need more than 8 beds. We will never need more than 8 beds. We will make it work.
Anybody want to move to get it on the floor?
I'll make the move resolution authorizing the purchase of 1021 Green Acres Lane, Neenah, Wisconsin for $240,000 with an additional $100,000 for renovation costs.
Second.
Thank you, Don.
I have questions.
Go ahead.
I listened to your facility meeting, and the garage roof or whatever, that membrane, some of that's missing. How fast can you get that up there? Right now, water's just leaking in there. Like you said, you can't believe that they didn't do something.
Yeah. Well, we got to own it before I can work on it.
Right, but I just, right now, water's just leaking in there. There's no roof on it.
We would be able to get something up there at least temporarily to seal it down. And then, because if this goes to the county board for approval in August, we probably go to closing in September. Hopefully approval. Oh, July. Yeah, I'm a month ahead. Probably go to closing in August. We might be able to get something out for bid in fall, but the roofers are pretty full up right now. So, we probably would be able to get some kind of temporary fix up there to stop the water coming in, and then get it to be one of the first jobs that they do in spring.
Any chance that you get the housing authority to put a temporary fix up there so that it doesn't have to leak for another month and a half? It's been dry, but when it rains, it's going to rain, and we could be getting an inch or more rain at a time, and with basically no covering on there, it's not good. I mean, you would think if it was my property and I owned it, the housing authority, I would get at least a tarp up there. It doesn't cost much. I'm sure for less than $500, they can get that where it's maybe not watertight, but a whole lot less than it's coming in right now.
Yeah.
I mean, I would appreciate if somebody would try to do that at least.
I will ask her, but my conversations are basically average. And they just want to be done with it and get out from under it. And And I agree that, I believe that Mike and his crew can temporarily take care of it. It's not completely separated. Right?
No, it's just.
I mean, it's not completely separated, so it is possible to just fix it tight enough so that they can wait until they get the road.
Well, right, I just, yeah, it doesn't have to be, just, you take a blue tarp and put it up there with a 2x4, it's gonna do something to stop it.
Yeah.
Because I listened to your meeting, you said part of it's missing in your facility meeting. So the part that's missing, the water, there's no roof there at all. So, you know, if you get an inch of rain's coming into the building.
I will call and ask Wendy, between now and then, but, Mike, I'm confident we can do a quick
Right, I mean,
fix when we get it.
if they let us do a quick fix before we sign all the papers, I would just like to see something. It's been dry. We're going to get rain eventually, and when it does start to rain, I think it could rain for a long time, and I would just hate to see more damage occur. I mean, we have $100,000 budgeted for that type of maintenance, but I mean, if I own a building and the roof's leaking, I try to get the roof. Basically, it may not be a new roof, but I try to get a patch on it until I can get it repaired.
Okay, and so we can do.
That's all I got.
Don? You got a question?
I can go.
I would be worried, like as Steve is saying, I would be worried about water getting into the cracks, developing. When you get to colder weather, you're gonna have ice, it's gonna get worse, and you're gonna have bigger leaks to fix, or even the whole roof.
Right.
And you don't wanna get into that.
Mm-hmm.
So get somebody that quick.
If they are unable to do it, they're just very short-handed when it comes to their maintenance crew, and Nina's, this is the only property they have left in Nina's, so I could ask them, and maybe if Mike has an idea of how to do a patch, I think they would be probably more likely that they would be willing to have us do a quick fix.
Yeah,
And they have the people to do it. That's the only thing. I mean, it's not that they don't want to do it, it's they don't just don't have it.
Yeah, I'd just like to get it so that if we do get an inch or two of rain, and it's
Yeah.
99% of it's
I'll
not
talk to
gonna come
them.
in.
Okay, anybody want? Yes,
Betsy has her hand up.
ask Betsy to make her comment.
Hi, I actually sit. Can you hear me okay?
You're fine.
You can. Okay, I actually sit on the Winnebago County Housing Authority board, and we are getting this property at a much lower price than what we should have. So I believe that is set into the price, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, well,
Is the maintenance that has to be accrued? Yeah, and then they are very short-staffed. I did not vote on this, obviously, on the board, and I can't vote on it for this board because I sit on both. But they are completely short-staffed. There is no way they would be able to do this. So I'm not sure what the solution would be. I get what Steve is saying, obviously, that it could be an issue, but something temporary, I think, is probably the only way to go at this point.
What they'll take your comments into consideration, Betsy, and do you have anything else to add?
No.
No, Mike?
As soon as we can make the repairs and we have permission and clearance from everybody to do it, and we have a clear indication that we're buying the property, then we can go and do something for it.
Thank you, Betsy. Thank you. Do we want to vote?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes. Go ahead.
So I would ask that the wording regarding the fiscal note be replaced with the wording that would say this project will receive a $340,000 transfer from the unassigned general fund balance, and project funding will either reduce the unassigned general fund balance or will later be reimbursed by subsequent bond issues. By using this language, we have it basically avoids creating an issue with the way the finance department has to report financial activity. I can say it slowly, or again, if you want it, or I can read it into the record, but essentially it's the same thing. It's just using magic words for the fiscal note.
And the fiscal note is on the
line 36.
It's on line 46, is it?
They're 36.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you want to change the line 36 to read,
This project will receive a $340,000 transfer from the unassigned general fund balance and project funding will either reduce the unassigned general fund balance or will be later reimbursed by a subsequent bond issue.
everybody get that? And that will replace the fiscal note of line 36
and 37.
and 37.
So is that a friendly amendment?
More or less.
I have a
Okay.
question.
Yes,
May I
Betsy?
ask?
Yes, Betsy.
Since this has already been passed, 6-0 Human Services Board and the Facilities Board Committee at 5-0, can we make changes like this since it's already been passed this way, or do we have to wait until the actual board meeting?
I would.
I'm sorry, Mike Collar would like to answer you, Betsy.
It's been always my understanding that the fiscal note was not technically a part of the resolution itself, but commentary by the finance director providing information to the board about the fiscal impact. So I've always thought I could, or the finance director could amend the fiscal note at any point in the process.
And Mary Ann?
I would say that essentially this is a housekeeping detail because the intent is, I mean, it's not as if numbers are being changed. It's just clarifying items. So I also believe it can be changed, despite the fact that you said what Human Services and Facilities has voted on.
Hold on a second. Don, you have a question?
Well, we've made changes in this committee in the past that was already passed.
No.
For example, the highway department. So we have precedents that we've done that already. So I don't think there's any problem.
Well, this is a friendly amendment. Is that not true? I mean, it's a friendly change, so to speak. And the physical note is not truly a part of the resolution. So we're going to go ahead and make the change on line 36 and 37. Betsy, do you have any other question?
I agree with what Dawn is saying and what you're saying. I just remember that we have done this in the past and we kind of got reprimanded on the board during the meeting for a committee meeting, or not the committee meeting, for the board meeting. So that's why I was bringing that up, because I remember that was just in the past, I don't know, 6 months when that happened. So just wanted to clarify. If you think it's okay, then that's fine with me. I can't vote on it anyway, so.
Thank you, Betsy.
I think we just got to make it clear at the meeting, and I think it'll be, somebody might get mad.
Well, we have both the facilities and the DHS here who had the votes on the resolution already, and they also agree that it should be changed, correct?
But the voters don't, they're not here.
Yeah. So let's make that a friendly amendment to the resolution as a physical note. Okay. And everybody's got a copy, right? Of what we're going to make the change.
We'll have it when the papers come on for the meeting.
Let's have a vote.
I.
Aye, 3-0. Thank you, Mike. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda is Adam Briss, and we have got two of them back to back here, 8 and 9. Eight is the resolution authorizing the acceptance of a donation from Lapham Hickey Steel in the amount of $5,000 to purchase supplies. Give us a little.
Yep, so we partnered with Oshkosh Recreation Department and PDS Fusion, which is a nonprofit organization in Oshkosh, for our Be Active Go Outside program. We've been calling it Winnebago. You've seen it on our Facebook page. And the goal of it is to get residents and users out to county park system, whether it's Wild Wash Trail, community park, the dog parks, at basically any of our properties. And so we have a event once a month, and that's basically the donation from Lapham Hickey Steel covers the expenses for the event. So we're looking for basically the budget amendment or the budget amendment for the extra revenue of 5,000 and then the extra expense of 5,000. So ultimately it's a net zero.
And there's really no budget transfer.
It's an authority to accept the donation and spend the money in a separate expense account.
I move to authorize acceptance of donation from Latham Hickey Steel in the amount of $5,000.
Second.
Thank you, Steve. Don and Steve. Okay. For questions. Any questions? Let's go.
Aye.
3-0. That's. The second one, or the second resolution you're dealing with, item 9, has authorized the acceptance of a donation from the Oshkosh Soccer Club, United Soccer Club, in the amount of $7,500 for the purpose of installing electrical pedestals at Winnebago County Community Park. Could you give us a little insight to that one, sir?
Yeah, very similar. Looking for authority for spending and accepting the donation again. And then these are pedestals located out at the community park. They were installed by United Soccer. There's 4 of them. They were the donation from United Soccer, actually Facilities Department and Parks Department partnered to put these 4 pedestals in electrical service. United Soccer, the biggest reason for it is they have an event out there, Oshkosh on the Water. Large event, they have food trucks and different vendors out there, so now they can hook right up. They don't have to run extension cords, and then those pedestals are available to be utilized for other special events like the Mountain Memorial, Labor Day festivals, and other events, Super Soccer Saturday, those types of events out there.
We can get a motion.
I'll make a motion to authorize the acceptance and donation of Oshkosh United Soccer Club in the amount of $7,500 for the purpose of installing electrical pedestals for Winnebago Community Park.
Would you like to do a second or?
Would you I'll take a second.
Okay.
Okay. Any questions?
Are these things going to be locked out?
Or yes, they have the ability to be locked out with padlocks. Yes.
Those padlocks then signed out, or those?
Yeah, they're from the keys. Yeah, whether it's a combination or a key lock. Yeah, we can check those out.
Anybody? You want to vote?
Aye.
It's 3-0.
One of our questions there, we want the electric cars charging up for free.
Let's get an adapter.
we're down to item 10. And before we call Mr. Haybeck to give us the rundown on it, I'm going to make a change to the items 11 and 12. I'm going to flip them around so that the budget transfer for the position to the Human Service or Human Resources Department is going to go right after the merit pay plan. We do that? I'll make a
But what are you swapping?
swapping item 12 for item 11, and item 11 will be in 12, so that we can have Mark do both the budget transfer and the merit pay together.
Oh,
Okay? Does everybody agree
Sure.
on that? Okay? All right. Let's go ahead with item 10, the merit pay plan. And Mark Haybeck.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I had done the presentation last month to county board regarding merit pay. And after we did 5 employee meetings, solicited feedback from this committee, the board, employees, supervisors. And ultimately what we're requesting is implementing a policy that would allow 2 distinct methods to adjust employee pay. The first being a schedule increase. That way, when the schedule gets adjusted each year, either to stay current with market, inflation, all those different variables, we would apply that increase to the employee's pay. Secondly, we need a second type of raise, a second type of increase so that employees can actually advance through their range. There's 2 different ways that we could do that. We could, as the policy is written right now, it would still be based on merit. But we've tried to come up with ways that we could make merit more objective and less subjective, base it off of what we think are some more objective measurables, things like training. Certainly we would have during the evaluation process, any criteria that would be required of employees to qualify for a merit raise would be identified a year in advance. We've talked, and part of the training that we would do for supervisors would be that, number one, obviously that gets identified in writing on their evaluation that year in advance. We encourage and will train supervisors to be meeting regularly with their employees. Specifically, you know, as you get closer to making the end of the evaluation period, having follow-up conversations of employees, if it's felt that they're not currently meeting expectations. The goal, and I think I've used it in talking with the board, and I've used it with supervisors. The idea is no surprises. You know, employees should have a realistic expectation to understand what's expected of them and the opportunity to meet those expectations. That merit raise, we would, in essence, eliminate the share system. So we would not have unequal shares. It would be, I wouldn't necessarily call it a step, but I think you could think of it as step S, because we'd have a defined amount that employees would move up through the range. That would help us to allow employees, not only the new hires, to move up to that control point in a timely manner, but it also allows employees who have been with us on that retention piece to actually have meaningful movement towards the top of the range. Under this plan, employees would be able to achieve top pay. In our current system with shares, I don't think that's possible, or it's very unlikely, and most of the employees who are at that point it's because prior to going to the system we're in right now with shares, we're probably already at the top. So I think this gives us a more clear system to employees of what to expect. It also makes the administration of the whole process less labor intensive. And it gives us those two distinct raises. And part of the reason we want those two distinct raises, other than that movement, is we don't want to recreate the problems that got us in the pickle that we were in earlier this year, that we really tried to address with some of that reslotting and that in-range compression. So we don't want to perpetuate a system that just puts us in that same spot a few years down the road. I know there's been discussion from several different members regarding instead of attaching that merit increase to performance, maybe just making it automatic. You know, ultimately, if that's what the board would choose to do, we could go that way. But regardless, we still need two distinct raises. We need that raise to lift everyone, and then we need some mechanism to move them farther along the range. Because we've got a merit system right now that was based on a previous board's, you know, preference. At this point, I've kept that the same. However, like I said, I'm trying to take into account some of the concerns that were expressed regarding the idea of favoritism and still making some baseline effort required to qualify. And if employees don't achieve that, making sure that, again, there's no surprises and we can have that communication ahead.
Before I ask questions, or you ask questions, we should put this on the floor.
Didn't you say you want to do 11?
No, this is the merit pay plan.
Oh, you want to switch 11 and 12?
11 and 12 is what we're switching. So the next thing that we're going to talk about is the budget transfer for human resources department after this. Okay.
I move to amend the Winnebago County Merit Pay Plan.
Okay, thank you, Don. Second by Steve. Can I ask a question?
Please.
Well, it sounds to me like you're making an effort to a kind of a two-tiered raise or payment to the employee each time. Okay, and it's understood that if you don't do the COLA first, no, because the COLA comes out usually in a percentage. If you don't do the COLA first, the merit increase is going to not have as much an effect on the compression as each one of the tiered levels will get closer to that 50%. And you don't want that. You want that to stream out, but the merit increase help it along that much more. Is that correct? The merit increase is something that each individual is going to look at as not a share, but as a badge of winning his achievements. Okay, the achievements that were pre-designated earlier in the whole process, and will be reviewed as each one of the department heads or each one of the managers review with that individual. So when they get a merit increase, it's something of value to them.
Correct.
It gives them ownership in the compensation package. Totally. Yes. I see it as that is that the way it should be, and that's the way it must be in order to gain the ownership by everybody in the community of the county.
That's the intent, yes.
Any other questions?
I guess mine is, who will actually be doing the reviews? I mean, if you can take like the department head, he basically doesn't really. I'm only familiar with the highway department, so I'll just use that for my example. He doesn't really know any of the workers. He basically, looks for grants and lines up the work. Then you got your 2 road supervisors with, they basically spend a lot of time in the office. Then you have 2 others, basically supervisors that occasionally see the workers. I mean, I would think at the highway department, the foreman should be the one doing the evaluation. They work with the people. You know, they know them on a daily basis, the job they do. And for an example, the paving crew, you know, like when you get to an intersection, there's a lot of handwork. Some truck drivers will get out and help. Others will stay in the truck, it's air conditioned. Well, if I was a foreman on that crew, I would tell them, if you don't get out of that truck and start shoveling, don't look for no merit raise. You know, they need to have control over the workers. So I would basically have in the highway department, the foreman doing the evaluations because they work with the people on a daily basis. You know, in your office, you know, you maybe have a few people, you could basically do their evaluations. But when you have a workforce of 50 people, it's a lot harder for the department head to do the evaluation. You have to take it down to the foreman that's actually working with the people that see them on a daily basis, you know, and we have to, as a county, give them a definition. This is what you need to do to get your merit raise, you know, so they have a goal, because you can't just basically hang a carrot out there and like at the city, when they put their $500 and $1,000 bonus in, you almost got it. You only missed it by a couple of points. Well, you've only pulled that so many years, and they just figure, well, if you're not in management, you don't get it. And that's basically the way. Most people in management always got the $1,000. And most people that I talked to, people in the street department, very few of them got it. You know, and we want it to be fair so that people feel that they can actually get that. You know, because it is part of their raise. If we're going to give them a 4% raise and we're only going to give them 2%, you know, as a raise and 2% as a merit, they have to have a goal. And if they achieve that goal, we have to give it to them. You know, and they have to know that we're not going to basically slight them by basically saying, well, you know, you didn't quite make it. You know, we gave them the goals. We told them halfway through the year, this is what you need to improve on. And if they didn't, well, then I guess they didn't want that extra 2%. But we have to have them have faith in us that we're going to be a good steward and we're going to live up to our end of the bargain. And if you do that, I would be happy to vote for it.
Okay. I don't disagree with anything you said. I can tell you right now, the department heads don't do all the evaluations. It's the employee's immediate supervisor. And I can't necessarily speak directly to highway, but I can tell you that we always look towards collaboration. One example might be is if we have an employee who spent 6 months in one department and then they go to another department during the same evaluation period. We always encourage the current supervisor then who's filling out the evaluation to have communication and collaborate with the previous supervisor, because in cases like that, maybe a goal or something that had been set up a year ago, well, they're not even in that position or maybe not even in that department. So things have changed. And so that's where we always want there to be that communication. Because again, the purpose, we want to develop employees. We want to have them take ownership in the positions. And even from a retention standpoint, it doesn't help us from a culture standpoint. To your point, if we're kind of pulling out the rug at the last minute, that actually hurts us as an employer. And well, each year there seems to be those handful of employees who, for a variety of reasons, choose not to qualify. It shouldn't be a surprise. And, you know, the whole picture of your kind of employment life with the county really plays into that retention piece and culture piece. So I agree with what you're saying.
Don, you got any
No
questions? You agree with it?
I'm voting yes.
Would you like to vote?
Sure.
You voting for it?
What?
Well, I guess I'd better vote for it too. It's 3-0. Okay, we'll go on to the budget transfer, item 12, to add a project position to Human Resources Department. Yep, on the same page here. Okay. Maybe you'd like to say a few words.
I would. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I've also asked our payroll and benefits manager, Ginger Lenz, to be here just in case there's any particular questions that the committee has, that we can try to answer them as fully as possible. But you've heard me say, since I've been in this position, probably at least a couple times, that right now we have one position in the county that processes payroll for all of our employees. And we process payroll every single week. We have employees that are paid. We're paid every other week, but every week there's some group of employees receiving a paycheck. So every single week we're doing Parkview. It'll be done every other week, but we've got Parkview, we have courthouse, we've got highway payroll, we've got some salaried payroll, we've got county board payroll and per diems. So every single week we're doing payroll. It's a very hard deadline task. We don't have the flexibility to set things aside. And as we've added complexity to our payroll process in things like, differentials and incentives and different things, some of those, a lot of them are either manual, or even if they're baked in the system, there's still manual review, balancing, making sure all the numbers tie out, things like that for pay. One of my concerns as director is we have very little, I guess two things. One, we're at capacity. I mean, our payroll person is struggling to keep up. And if that person were to be sick, or to be out on any type of extended leave, or honestly, even to try to take a day off, it's very difficult because payroll must go on. Now, when those things happen, obviously payroll continues. Payroll continues because the backup to that position is the manager. The problem we have with that on any type of long-term absence is the manager position deals a lot with our benefits and the payment of benefits, things like that. So if the manager is doing payroll, then we're not necessarily processing tax payments, benefit payments, things like that. The idea with this position long-term, because it is a long-term need, is to include a request in the 2024 budget. So that you'll see in the budget as a regular position. The reason why I'm bringing a request before you now as a project is to help out, to get some relief as soon as possible. These positions take a long time to learn. We've got 3 different systems, plus all the various payrolls. We've got different payrolls based on either departments or positions. So it's not something that we can just have someone come in and in a couple of weeks they're up and running and helping out. Big picture probably takes a good year for someone to feel comfortable. Takes probably at least 6 months to really hit the ground running. January is one of the busiest times for payroll because we're doing all of the end of year closeouts from the prior year. We're doing all the new year things, different raises and whatnot, changes in benefit rates, those types of things. And plus then all the tax forms and processing. So January is always a terrible time for our payroll team. Being able to try to look for someone now gives us some time to get that person on board, get them trained, so that come January, they're actually helpful to the team and helping us hit the ground running. And then, like I said, the intent would be if the position gets approved in the budget, that's when the actual TO would be upgraded and it would be added to the position that way.
I'll make a motion to add the project position to the Human Resource Department.
Thank you, Steve.
Second.
By John. Any questions? Questions?
So did you have any trouble this week?
Ginger?
We're working hard. Holiday week. We have our 2 big payrolls, Parkview and Courthouse at the same time. And
But if you wanted to take vacation for the 4th,
oh,
could not have.
I did. I took off Monday, but now I'll work some long days trying to make sure we all get a paycheck next week.
Okay.
Just out of curiosity, you know, you've had the same amount of people for how many years and you got by? What changed?
Couple things changed. First of all, from a staffing standpoint, our previous payroll and benefits manager was with the county 42 years. That person retired in January. So we lost 42 years worth of knowledge and proficiency. Ginger had been in the payroll and benefits specialist position. So she took the promotion in January. And while she's been doing a great job and picking things up quickly, certainly she's not as proficient as someone who's been here as long as what Jane Hughes has been. Secondly, although Ginger had been proficient in doing payroll, Joan Lowe had taken the promotion now to the specialist position. And of course, Joan isn't as proficient as what Ginger had been. But even once we get that proficiency and that speed built up, even when Jane was here, we were talking about capacity issues. And last year in the budget, you know, I suppose I could have asked for 2 positions, but I asked for 1 position, and that was the generalist position. And the reason why I asked for the generalist position at that time wasn't necessarily because we didn't necessarily need some help in payroll, but take a look at how many openings and vacancies. I mean, really, the urgency at that time really seemed to be, we need to try to get people hired. We need to bring people in, whether it's certainly for Parkview, but also for highway and facilities, all of our departments. If you look at the numbers that are provided in, you know, the monthly report you get, you'll see that we're hiring more people this year than at this point last year. But again, that shifts additional work to payroll. Payroll and benefits, they also work with our newly hired employees doing benefit orientations. So certainly the more people that we're hiring numerically, they have more orientations to do. Plus, like I said, as we add things like shift differentials, incentive pays, things like that, it adds time to be able to process payroll. And through the comp study, one of the things that we'll be looking at will be some of those incentives, and whether it's hiring bonuses, whether it's stipends, there's a lot of different things that payroll, they're having a tough time keeping up where we're at. And I only see the future as trying to be more creative and more flexible with things, but then we need the staff and the expertise to be able to handle that workload.
On top of all of that, you're looking at a double round of compensation package, with COLA, with merit increases, all of that on top of what you normally do. And the budget is coming in.
Right, and right now that's
that.
right, and Ginger has been instrumental in getting departments all their labor budgets, things like that. So while she's doing that, Joan's working on payroll, and we actually to get those labor budgets out to departments, we didn't have them out as soon as we would like because Joan happened to be off, which meant Ginger couldn't work on labor budgets. She had to do payroll. Payroll always has to come first.
Any other questions?
I have a comment.
Yes, sir.
I'm sure you need this or you wouldn't be bringing it to us. Correct.
Absolutely.
That's exactly right.
No brainer.
I've seen it. That is no brainer. So I'm voting yes.
Yeah.
You are.
Yes.
We got 3-0.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you, Ginger.
Yes, you know, I'm gonna go get the results.
All right, that leaves us with item 12. I'm sorry, item 11. And this is the one that we had a comment from Mr. Hanson, who physically came to our ARPA committee and took a look at how this was presented. The ARPA committee, this is a resolution to create a sunset innovation analyst position within Winnebago County and the Department of Administration. As it came from the ARPA committee, it came 5-4. And there were 4 against supporting it. A lot of things in here that we're all concerned about, and I think one of them happens to be the ARPA money is designed for ARPA projects, not specifically or not directly for ARPA or for positions. And I look at the ARPA money as should be spent, and it can be spent with an inclusion of the interest rates in the ARPA money, but that is ARPA money. It's not something to be cut out and said it's going to handle our payroll or the payroll of this person. Somebody asked why we couldn't take the innovative analyst and pair him against his own salary and say, okay, our ROI, return on investment, is going to include whatever he grants or whatever he sets up as grants against his own salary, and whatever he makes paired to the salary or to the grants that he advises and sets up and puts in place. That doesn't work either. Normally, we budget for a position, and that budget is something that the board appropriates. I don't know that I can support even now this resolution for that purpose. So I'm at a point to wanting to withdraw this resolution.
Without discussion?
Hold on a second. I haven't. It has to be brought to the floor. I've only made a few comments and it hasn't been brought to the floor yet. So if you want to bring it to the floor, it's up to you two. I'm not going to bring it to the floor, nor will I give it a second.
I move to create a sunsetting innovation analyst position within the Winnebago County Department of Administration.
Don? Is there a second out there?
Can I ask a question?
Is there a second out there?
I'm assuming I can't make a second, right?
Oh, you can. Is there a second? The resolution dies on my amendment or on my agenda for lack of a second.
I don't even know why we can't just talk about it.
I'm sorry. We are now on item 13.
I'll move item 13, commendation for Dan Zigenhagen and Tom McGinnis.
Second.
Thank you. Don. Steve. Oh,
I
aye. Next meeting date, it appears it's August 3rd. Is there a problem with that? No. Any problems that Betsy might have with August 3rd?
No, I'm good. I'm good.
Thank you. Okay, so we had 3-0 vote on the August meeting date.
do we have to vote on that?
No. August 3rd it is. Adjournment, folks.
Second.
Thank you. Steve. Voted? 3-0. Aye. 3-0. We're done. Thank you very much. It is now 10:35.